DBS community, welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super video here with Kyle Chris. It's been a while since I've actually made a video. You guys have probably seen a lot of gameplay videos on the channel just because I was working a lot last week, so I took it upon myself to just kind of edit and put out a lot of those gameplay videos so you guys can watch that stuff from the last tournament that I was in. So we had a tournament over the weekend, over on Sunday, and I didn't want to play Mecha just because I was trying to just kind of have some fun, but also use this tournament as sort of a testing ground for some other decks that I may want to run in my next regional event. And I was coming across this Jiren list that I created that felt really fun, felt a little more refreshing than the standard Jiren list. It plays very similar to some other Jiren lists, but then I threw in some extra stuff in there to kind of push pressure. There were turns where I was getting 10 swings on board, and with a Jiren deck, it's not something that you would probably think would happen. So you guys let me know what you guys think of the deck list. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of the videos that I make down below. Comment and hit that bell for notifications so you guys know when we post videos. We post videos weekly, sometimes on the weekend as well. So Jiren is a set 9 leader. This is the set 9 Jiren, and when this card attacks, you get to take a life, and then you pick one of two. So you either draw a card and then gain 5k, or you take a life and then you play 2-drop or less Universe 11 from your hand. Now, depending on the matchup, you're going to want to just swing, take a life, and draw a card instead. But there are some matchups where you're going to want to play out a card, and I'll kind of go over that once we get to that part of the deck. You're waking up 4 life, and then on this side, you swing, you gain 5k, and you draw a card. And then you have the ability to take a life, activate battle, and you cannot, your opponent, as long as you have a Universe 11 card on board, your opponent cannot deal damage to you from attacks. This is not from skills, so anything that does burn damage, it still goes right through. So Invoker, that's probably why this deck was never prevalent in the set 9 meta, because Invoker came out the same set, and we all know what happened with that. So, but this is the leader. We'll go over the what we have here. So the weenie package, of course, 4 blockers and the 4 barriers. Gotta give all of your 2 or less barrier, and then this is your blocker. You keep recycling these cards. I've recycled them a million times in this deck. Could be one of your turn 1 plays depending on what you're playing against. If you're playing against green and your opponent puts on a Demigra turn 1, pluses it, you're probably smart to play this card down first. Either play it off of your leader ability or playing it for 1 energy. That way all of your 2 drops come in. They have barriers, so then they can't be hit by Charismatic Villain, including your blocker, which ends up being a very, very important card down the road. 3 of the Slash Striker, Crucial. This card is it's a searcher, so you play it for 1, search top 5 for a 4 or less Universe 11 or a 2-drop Unison, which does come into play. And also, if this card is tapped by one of your skills, you can choose one of your opponent's battle cards 4 or less and put it in rest mode. That is also pretty prevalent as well. But also just gives us another one drop target. And then the Binary Blade, Crucial. You play this card, you get to search your deck for a 1-drop Universe 11, play with the skills negated for the turn, and then when this card is removed by a skill, it does the same thing. So this is your primary play off of your leader ability. So turn 1, if I have both of these in my hand, I'm gonna play Kunchi for 1, swing at leader, take a life, and then play this guy, and then play out a Vaughn, or another Kunchi. Most decks don't run barrier removal. Even in the side deck, a lot of them don't run barrier removal, especially wide board barrier removal. So being able to just cycle these cards on the board and just keep them on board is pretty prevalent. If there comes a meta where everybody's running massive amounts of board removal, then you just don't play the deck. I mean, this is kind of the whole archetype of the deck, is you play out all these little guys, and it just helps you stay alive. Once you get to your backside, you basically have 3 turns where your opponent just can't deal damage to you. Something I've noticed, if your opponent's just swinging with like a 15k, just block. If your opponent's just swinging just with normal damage, you can just block. If you think they're gonna chompa you, then you can take a life. Obviously after they chompa, but generally just block with Vons, just out combo some stuff. Don't waste your abilities just because you know you can kind of shotgun this activate battle sometimes, where your opponent will just swing with something and then you just activate battle and then you okay, cool. It did its job regardless. You still took a damage. So try to utilize your blockers as much as possible and just combo power and stuff as well. For Pride of Universe 11. So this card here is super good. You pitch this card. I don't believe there's any requirements outside of being a Universe 11 leader. Yeah. You pitch this card from your hand, and then you get to play out 2 of these with different names, and their skills negated for the turn. So it's the same ability as Crucial basically. So you can play any of these. You just pick 2 different ones. So you pick this and this, this and this, or this and this. Obviously, this one's probably the least important one out of the 3. But these 2 are great. If you have multiple of these in your hand, you can just play these out. One thing that I would do is I would combo on my turn with both of these, and then use this to bring it back. Just gives you free combo power sometimes. It just depends on kind of the what you're trying to accomplish. You have all those. 3 Vegeta Unisons. So this unison works actually with this card, since we can tap a card. So we can tap this, and then this will tap down. Oh, then this card will tap down a 4 or less battle card, which then can trigger all of our yellow card effects. And then Vegeta being for non-mecha decks, probably the best unison still in the game. Mecha, I think Metacool are still better, but that's just my opinion. You tap a card with this to add a marker, and then you can -1. Your opponent can't attack with big battle cards for the turn, which is great in any matchup. And then -3, tap an energy, gain 5k, dual attack, double strike. This is one of your game finishers. Also, because it's not a battle card, if your opponent nimbuses you or they violent raise or whatever, then you still can get around it by attacking with Vegeta. For apes, since we're okay with tapping out doesn't really do anything for us because as long as we have a Universe 11 on board, opponent can't do damage to us anyways, so it doesn't really matter too much. So being able to just play out this 20k dual attack, a 20k double strike for 2 energy, it's really good. If you can awaken on turn 3 and you have a board set up already and you're pretty confident that your opponent can't kill you, you can swing at leader, take a life, do whatever. Combo 2, combo with one of these, awaken, restand energy, combo with another one, and then you get 2 free draws plus 2 double strikes on board. That's very good. So this card comes really in handy. It's just really good for any yellow deck. Not every yellow deck is going to run 4 because it is pretty energy exhaust heavy, being a 2 energy combo. But decks like this where energy really doesn't matter, 4 is fine. 3 Bergamo and 3 Basil. So Bergamo came into play every now and then. I didn't play it too much, but Basil won me most of my games. In this tournament, I ended up going. We had 4 rounds. It was a smaller tournament. I think I went 3-1. Yeah, I went 3-1. I lost to our buddy Charles. Shout out to Charles. He played Sin, and I just couldn't get through a lot of the cards that I couldn't get through all the blockers. But every other matchup I won. It's Basil put in a lot of work. Bergamo not as much, but Bergamo can tap 2 energy or tap a battle card and an energy ignoring barrier. Basically just another 2-cost combo, and you play it when one of your opponent's battle cards is tapped. You can activate him. Basil comes in for 1 energy. He has unique, but he draws you a card. Opponent has more than 5 more cards in rest mode. He gains 15k in dual attack until the end of your opponent's turn. So he becomes a 19k dual attacker. That's very good. And I'll kind of keep him to the side because I'm going to talk about him in a little bit. Because he's part of one of the big combos that I use in the deck, which actually is these cards here. Okay, so these cards here, and I'm going to mess around with different ratios of these cards. But this was the whole fun concept that I came up with in the deck, and I may not be the first person who's done this, so if I'm not, I apologize. So it involved Bardock, Father and Son, this Overrealm, and Belmont, and actually Basil to an extent as well. So the idea, I'll go over what the cards do, and then I'll kind of go over what the combo is. So Bardock, when your opponent has 3 more energy, you can play him for free by tapping a battle card. So you have the ability to, if you can tap a battle card for free, you can play him out, and you can only have one of him on the field at the time. So he has unique. So that Bardock will trigger your Bergamo effect. So that's one of the effects you can do from the Bergamo. And then he's a 15k body. Bardock here is an Overwhelm for 4. Draws you 2 cards, and you pitch a card to the drop area. Pretty self-explanatory there. And then Belmon comes into play if you for free. If you choose 3 of your battle cards and put them in the drop area. And then he comes into play, he pops something, and he has blocker. So what my concept was, and this is how I was getting so many swings off. So not even including my Vegeta, not including the Raiders, not including Bergamo. This was kind of my mid game of what I would do. So if I had one of these on board already, or if I had another one in hand, I'd play this card, swing twice with this. Or I would play this card, draw, play this, tap something, swing twice with this, swing with this. I would overwhelm, and the big thing with overwhelming is you want to make sure you have all of your little guys out of the drop area. So I would make sure that I use my Pride of Universe 11 beforehand if I had the ability to. Get most of the little guys out of the drop. If I still have like the Slash Striker in there, if like this card's in the drop area, that doesn't matter too much. But the blocker and the barrier, I want to try to keep those on board. So I would overwhelm then, draw 2 cards, pitch a card, swing with this card. So now I have these 3 cards all here in rest mode. Then I'd play Belmon, pop all 3 of them, play this, pop something, then have another swing on board. And now, because this card and this card have been removed, I have the ability to replay them again if I have them in my hand. Now obviously I'm only running 2 ofs, and this is a 52 card deck, so we're pretty close to consistency. But in the future I may end up running more. You can run 3 of these and 3 of these, and 2 overwhelms, since you can only overwhelm once per turn. But the fact that you can just consistently, you play this out to get 2 draws, and just a free body to then pop it with Belmon, and then you can use these 2 here as well. This just generates you so much value. Being able to swing twice with Basil, and then removing it off the board with Belmon by playing another card, and then playing another Basil to then draw a card and then swing twice. You can also then loop it again to then play another Basil. Another Belmon, and then play another Basil. It's possible. Bardock's probably the one that has the least consistency because you actually have to tap a battle card. So if your opponent only has 1 battle card on board, you can only play this guy once. So you play him, you make sure he hits the board, and then you swing, overwhelm, swing, Belmon, pop all 3, keep him on board either as a blocker or swing, and then play another Basil and go from there. So it was a fun combo. There was games where just from this combo alone, I swung like 6 times. So I swung twice. I ended up playing 2 of these, played 1 of those, that, and that. That's 4. Well, actually, it ended up being 7. Yeah. Actually, I didn't swing in Belmont, so yeah, it ended up being 6. So I swung 4 times total with Basil's. Once with him, and then played Belmont. It was really fun. I did it again. Had all 4 Bardock Raiders Warcry on board, swung with all 4 of them, and then popped 3 of them, played Belmont, overwhelmed, played Basil, swung, did all a bunch of stuff, and then played another Belmont. You can just keep looping damage, and if your opponent doesn't have a floodgate, it puts them in a really, really bad position. 1 ape, just because that's all I own. I think it's fine. I think you can probably not run it. It's not a super necessity in most decks, but it was just fun just to have a card that I could just have a reason to actually run the card. 2 Poutine, because every yellow deck just needs to run it. Not much to really say about Poutine. Super combos are in 2 Krillin, 2 Zamasu. The split was cool. Realistically, I probably wanted the C4 Krillin for drawing power. And I have enough cards in the deck that tap stuff, so I probably didn't need Zamasu. But Zamasu felt okay, I guess. It wasn't terrible. 2 Cooler to stop people from violent raising me, which was the most annoying thing in the entire game because my couldn't hit him with any of my boss monsters. So that we had Cooler. Then you have the big Jirens. So it was a best of 3 tournament, and I forgot to build a sideboard because I was helping one of my friends who was coming up to play. I was helping him build a deck. I completely forgot to build a sideboard. And I mean, I had a few cards that I could play. I had like Final Flashes with me, and the Vegeta counterplays, the the Prideful Transformations, but I just never really used them that much. In a best of 1 format, I would run 2 of each of these. In a best of 3 format, I would run 3 of this and then put these 2 in the side deck. And the reason is because this card's not very good unless you're playing against blue. This is for your blue matchups, and then this is for everything else. So, Absolute Power Jiren, he's a 10-drop, 35k quad strike. For every Universe 11 card on board, his cost is reduced by 1, and he can become a 5 cost. So he comes out for 5 energy. And when you play him, you choose all your opponent's battle cards and energy and rest mode and place them in the drop area. In a sense, could be a game finisher for you. Even if you can't kill your opponent, on the crackback, it may be because they're playing, Sin, maybe because they're going to have a negate. Maybe when this card comes into play, it's going to get tapped or something. There's a bunch of different reasons. But just playing this card and removing energy and removing battle cards is extremely powerful, especially energy. If your opponent's tapped out, let's say you swing a leader and then they topo you. You're like, okay, they have no more energy now. Then you just play this, and then you just pop all their energy, and now they don't really have anything to do next turn. So they're going to have to charge and probably pass, and now you have a 35k quad strike on board that you can more likely just go for game with. The 12 drop, his cost gets reduced. You have to have 9 or more Universe 11 cards in the drop area. Now, this card's very tricky because in this build we do run Overwhelm. And when you're overwhelming the Universe 11 cards away, it doesn't quite make sense. So, if you're playing a best of 3, my advice is to probably take out the Overwhelm. Maybe add another maybe add 2 more Belmonts. And there's some other Universe 11 cards you can add, but you have to just not Overwhelm, basically. But he comes out, he's a 40k quad strike, and when he attacks, your opponent cannot activate counters or blockers. So, this actually did win me again, a game I was playing against Red Gogeta, and I ended up having to count, because I had like 7 Universe 11 guys on board, and like 3 in the drop area. So I swung my leader. He had 3. I think he had 3 health left. So I swung my leader. I comboed with my whole board. He just kind of looked at me like, "What are you doing?" And then I put this down. He's like, that makes sense. That makes sense. But the reason why you play this guy into blue decks is because he has deflect. So if you play this guy's gonna get bounced back. This guy can get bounced back by God Sealing. It can get bounced back by hit if you play him for 5. If you play him for 6, hit can't hit him, but God Sealing still can, and that feels really, really bad. So you play him in those matchups where you're playing against blue. You also can play this guy into green too. Doesn't really matter, I guess. But he comes into play, and his attack is going to go through. And then depending on what your opponent does, they basically just have to out combo him. Because no counter attack, no counter, nothing can work during this card's attack window. So, final card was Supreme Kai. This is definitely a Cell deck. I think Cell gives it one more notch, one more gear, if you will, of being able to attack more, because you're just gonna have all these little 12. You're gonna have 12 energy worth of cards on the board, especially with your Belmonts. So you have the ability to play out Cell. But you guys know the reason why I don't play Cell. So, but yeah, the deck felt really fun. So in certain matchups, this just goes for anyone who's going to play Jiren in the future. For certain matchups, you want to just continue to draw off of this side, and you want to generally awaken at 5 life. So basically, you want to stay at 5 life, combo if you have to kind of save yourself, because you want to play something on this turn. Now, generally, I mean, if you don't get to, then you don't get to. But it feels more value when you have the ability to swing this card, play out a 2-drop, play out the 2-drop like this guy here, play him out for free, play out another little guy, and then you can combo your war cries or do whatever, and then awaken and then do that. Or you just play something first and then awaken, and now you have your 20k leader swing. Being a 20k leader on your attack side is very good. You can pressure a lot of cards that are 20k, and it puts your opponent in a weird predicament, because it's not like you're swinging 15k to 15k. In that sense, they just have to combo one card. If you're swinging at a 15k, at a 20k, they have to combo a super combo or 2 cards, and that feels really, really bad. And if you kind of count your opponent's hand, and you can kind of figure out what they've used, what they haven't used, you can kind of force them to use super combo to save things, and that feels really good, especially if it's not a game-winning, game-losing situation. You're making them use super combos. So Dark Broly was a very easy matchup. I played against Dark Broly. I played against Yellow Whis. I played against Red Gogeta, and then I played against Sin in the finals. Whis deck, because this deck really doesn't take any damage, it's kind of hard to kill me. And especially since the Whis deck doesn't really main deck board removal for barrier, it's very difficult to get through Jiren. Basically, I just get to turn 5, and then if I have enough on board, I just drop Absolute Justice. For Broly, I just saw Vegeta. I played Vegeta, and then they really couldn't do anything. Vegeta just makes the game so difficult for Dark Broly to play. Sure, they can arrival out, they can just play out their stuff constantly and just keep trying to rip cards from my hand, but the one big guy doesn't really hit anything on board unless I'm playing Raiders or Belmonts, because everything has barrier. The Gogeta matchup. The Gogeta matchup was fun. I always love playing against that Gogeta deck. I don't think it was easy, for sure, because Violent Raise is a really annoying card. He kept Violent Raising me, and I had this in hand. So game 1 I played this, and I think I won with this. Game 2 I was trying to play this. I got to turn 6. I had enough little guys to play. I swung with my leader, and then he Violent Raises. I'm like, okay, can't do anything, because I had all my cards on board, so I needed the combo with him. And obviously, if he Violent Raises, I can't attack with this anyway. So I waited a turn, comboed him with all the battle cards out of my board except for one Kunchi, and then I played this guy out and then swung and comboed up to, I think, 100 quad strike, 105 quad strike, I think. The Sin matchup. So Sin, and I'm not going to spoil it, because if he's watching this video, I don't want to tell him what my out is for his deck. I'll just have to play it against him. But there's a card that if I knew I was going to build, if I was building a side deck, a best of 3, with this deck in particularly, I would have sided in 2 of these cards. And it's a card that targets a lot of different decks, but it was printed as a target for Sin Shinron. More importantly, his leader ability. So I'm not gonna say what it is. If people want to put it in the comments, they can. But I'll show you guys in a different video, because I'm gonna play it probably gonna use that card in the next tournament, just because Aggro Sin is gonna be a thing. So, but I'll save that for another video. Game 1, I just ran out of steam. Kind of hit a wall where there wasn't. We got to turn 6. He was able to play out all of his cards, and because he had the 9-drop on board, I couldn't drop either one of these guys. And the other problem is that Sin just restands all of his cards at the end of the turn, so I can't even use this card to remove anything. My hope was to use a Belmon, and so I tried to do game 2. Use a Belmon to pop the 9-drop, and then play this afterwards. Play one of these guys afterwards, because that was more likely going to win me the game. If I could just pop with a Belmon, pop a 9-drop, and then play this guy. And because he can't activate blocker, because he can't activate any sort of counter skill, he can't negate it, he can't blocker it, and I could just swing in and go for game. But I misplayed on one turn where I had Belmon, and I used Belmon too early to pop a 9-drop. It was the turn. It was I think it was two turns before I should have went for kill. Because I had plenty of block. I had all 4 of my blockers on board. I had tons of stuff, and I should have just waited. The idea was to play Belmont, swing at leader, play Supreme Kai, and since the 9-drop would be gone, her skill would not be negated, and then I can tap 1 to then warp his entire board, and it would just remove a lot of pressure since he can't play stuff from the warp. So that was my idea. It didn't end up working out, but good for him. It was fun. But yeah, that's what I got for you guys for Jiren. I'll tweak some stuff. Main board cards, I definitely would main board 6-drop Fu. 6-drop Fu is extremely good. I think in a best of 3 format, I think you main board 3 Absolute Justice and then one Fu, and then you put the 2 12-drops in the side deck, because they're not as useful. They're good, but they're not as useful as you may think from a Jiren deck. So that's what I got for you guys today. I'm trying to think of anything else I can think of. Nothing really else. If you guys have any questions about the deck, obviously leave those down below. I will answer them as much as I possibly can. And as always, like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of just the deck list in general, the ratios, everything else like that. And like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.